Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started.
All right, we're here. We're ready to go. Welcome, Eric Morrison, to episode 4 of the Lifestyle Chase podcast.
Thanks, Chris. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. It's good seeing you. For anybody that's listening, we were the Spin Brothers of True Ride, and I have since let another person take my place. Ryan Robles, one of my clients.
We were the OG True Bro duo.
We really were. Are you guys going to have another True Bro duo, or is he going to take on my legacy?
You know what? We haven't talked about it, but I could see us doing that for sure. He's a rock star.
It must be done. I've been training him, literally and figuratively.
I think he's ready.
Good. So, tell me, what does a typical day in the life of Eric look like?
Typical day in the life. My alarm rings at 7. I hit snooze several times, and then I quickly shower and hit the road I live downtown, and then I drive south to Global Edmonton, which is where I work. I work in the creative services department there, and my job title is a writer-producer at Chorus Creative. So depending on the day, I'm typically dealing with clients that have bought airtime on Global and that need a commercial done. I'll swoop in, write, produce, direct, edit something for them that will hopefully help them with their business. And I also do stuff for the station and some long-form programming stuff once in a while.
But that's not all you do. There's times when I'm sure that you've had to wake up earlier for things that happen at 6 a.m. Maybe you're like supporting a colleague, somebody that you're showing the ropes. What else do you do, Eric? Tell the people.
Well, I also am a spin instructor, or an indoor cycling instructor, if you will, and I'm the head instructor at True Ride Cycle Studio on the south side. And that's right, I've been in many of your classes, bright and early in the morning when you were with us, and I still teach 3 times a week there, ride a ton, do a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well.
So how is the new crew shaping up? What do you think?
We are so lucky to have a super tight group. We're all friends, like outside of the studio, which is awesome. And the new folks are just meshing really well. They're
blending
right in. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Oh no, my alarm for night. Why do I have an alarm at 9 p.m.? Who am I?
What is going on?
I must have programmed it for Central or something. Just a workhorse.
But yeah, so that's they're doing really well, and they're only a month and a half in or something like that right now, and they're great. They're doing fantastic.
It's really exciting. That's good. You didn't always live in Edmonton. Tell us about your childhood and what brought you here. Tell us the story of Eric before Edmonton.
Oh my goodness, it's not that interesting, but I am a proud Maritimer. I grew up in New Brunswick, rural New Brunswick, in a town of 1,900 people now, I think they are. The population fluctuates a lot depending on who comes and goes. Small fishing town on the east coast of the province, so it's on the water. We have one traffic light. It's not quite a traffic light. It's the type that blinks orange on one street and red on the other street. So that's just to give you an idea of how small it is. Congestion's not an issue. I went to school there, high school, and all in French. It's a French town. My mom is French speaking and my dad is English speaking. So I'm fluently bilingual. I'm one of the lucky ones. And it's a funny part of the country because it's like a poorer area, and our town is like a French town sandwiched between 2 English towns. New Brunswick's really interesting like that. Town to town, like either the language changes completely and people sometimes don't even understand each other from from town to town, and the accents even are really different from town to town. So I did all of my schooling there. It was a great childhood. I wouldn't change a thing. We were in the water all the time, on beaches, playing in the woods. It was where we got to use our imaginations to the fullest, and you didn't have a lot of the problems that you'd have in a city where your parents feel like they need to keep eyes on you or prevent you from, getting hit by a car in the street or whatever. We had fields to play in, woods to play in. It was fantastic.
And that sounds like my kind of childhood.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So I went to Université de Moncton to do my bachelor in marketing, and when I was doing my degree, I realized I didn't really want to do that for a living. And there was one part of the degree I liked, or my fourth year there. We did this mock campaign for like a local beer company. I mean, it's a lot of passions combined there. More on that later. So we did a mock advertising campaign, which included a TV commercial. And for the first time, I used a camera and I directed people, and I was like, hey, I think I could do this. And I kind of developed an interest in filmmakers and watching kind of indie movies. And I was kind of the weird kid in rural New Brunswick that liked artsy stuff. And I decided that as soon as my degree was done, I was going to book it to Vancouver for a 1-year film production program, which is what I did. I packed everything into my tiny Mazda Protege, and I drove across the country to my new home, Vancouver, where I would live for 8 years.
Damn. How long did that Mazda Protege hold up for you?
Well, the drive itself was like, I think 5 and a bit days of just like driving 12 hours a day. I would highly recommend it. It's, man, when you're going through a life change like that, there's no better way to really think about it and let it soak in than to be in a car by yourself listening to your favorite tunes. And
I call those vision quests.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a little bit like a pilgrimage, but with creature comforts, I guess. Yes, I've long since retired that car. Mm-hmm.
Didn't last too much longer.
I think I kept it for. Actually, I did keep it for. I don't know, like 6 years. Still in Vancouver. That was my Vancouver car.
You gotta respect those vehicles when it goes through all that with you.
It's hard to let it go.
Stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Hard to let it go, 100%. So, you did the program at Vancouver Film School. Fun fact, Vancouver Film School was also a place where I thought of going to school. I was dead set I was going to go as soon as I graduated high school. And I talked myself out of it because I thought, I'll never be able to make a go of it making videos, and here I am making videos of my training sessions.
Right? It is a tough go to make it your full-time job, and that's something that I kind of discovered pretty quickly. In fact, not long after I graduated, there was a writer's strike, and Hollywood, I don't know if you remember that, but that's Hollywood basically shut down a lot of production, and Vancouver, for better or for worse, is kind of a service industry to Hollywood. A lot of shows come up to Van to shoot there because there's great incentives for those production companies. And it dried up overnight. It was just completely different. So that was a terrible time to be new into the industry, trying to make a go of it. There was this job up in Fort St. John and for a little media company that actually doesn't exist anymore. And they were hiring, and I was like, yeah, I'll try that for 6 months. See what happens. And that was my first taste of the North.
Fort St. John is not fun. I did a Vision Quest trip there once.
Did you?
So one of my buddies, he was dating a girl that lived there and was doing some lumber forestry related schooling there. And probably more of an internship. But in any case, we did the day trip. He slept the whole time. We drove, we got there, we looked around, we went through a mall. We drove back home. That was it.
Yeah.
There's not much there.
Yeah, I lived there for 6 months, and it's a city that's kind of it's an oil city. They call themselves the energetic city, and they're slowly kind of building themselves out. They've got cool events that happen. A buddy of mine runs the events at the Encana Center. So they do get shows and stuff every once in a while. But yeah, it wasn't really where I was ready to call home. So I made my way back to Vancouver.
What kind of projects would you work on when you're working there, though?
It's interesting, actually. A lot of local stuff, local companies that needed videos, and when stuff would happen newsworthy up there, CBC, the CTV and Global would call this little company and, hey, do you guys have a cameraman available? There's the gas line explosion or something on one of the pipelines. Can you go get shots of that? So a couple times I found myself, doing these weird stories or these weird little shoots for media companies in Vancouver, which has actually led me to working for the CBC in Vancouver. They posted a job on the French side, And I was actually able to show them this story that I shot up in Fort St. John about this old lady who runs a weather station in Pink Mountain, which is in the middle of nowhere. The CBC calls the company one day, and they're like, hey, so one of our staff, or she works for Environment Canada, I'm not sure. She runs a weather station, and she was attacked by a wolf while she was going to do her checks. And she managed to fend it off and go to the hospital. And it's a great story. So I show up there, Pink Mountain, hours of driving, don't know where the heck I am. And this feisty lady just like recounts this tale of her battling off a wolf who she, will admit was probably really old and emaciated and hungry, and that's probably the only reason so he was very humble. Lady, you fended off a wolf. That's awesome. Don't undersell this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So, so I shot that story, and it was great because it was like a demo reel material and ammunition for my interview at the CBC, where I was like, look, I've actually shot for you already.
Yeah.
You just didn't know it.
Yeah. How long did you work for the CBC?
I was at the CBC for 3 years. They hired me right before the Vancouver 2010 Olympics. I worked on the French side, and that's actually where I got my first taste of writing and producing. I did a little bit of filing for the news show in French. I covered the International Film Festival there for the French radio and TV. It was a really cool job.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. There's so much of your story that you neglect to tell. Tell us more.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Did you want to just keep talking about...
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, so after getting a bit of a taste for production and working with actors or working with directing shots and thinking about angles rather than just following whatever's happening, for if you're shooting a news story, you're just getting what you can, pretty much. When you're in control and you're able to finesse a story and tell it the way you want to, it's really rewarding, for me anyway. So I decided I wanted to do that full time. So I ended up working for TELUS. They have their headquarters is in Vancouver, and they had a video department there. So I did a lot of commercials for them and internal marketing videos, external marketing videos, all kinds of stuff like that. And then I met a girl who was going to the U of A, and here I am, 4 years later.
On to Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Edmonton when you first saw it? First impression, 3 words. Give me 3 words.
Gray, industrial,
Eric, is not a word.
I feel like part of the problem was that I came in on the Yellowhead, and I think when you're coming into the city from the Yellowhead, it's there's lots of, I don't know, smokestacks, and it's gray, and I was leaving the green hippie utopia, and then arriving at the end of October, no less, probably cold like it is these days, to Edmonton. And yeah, I think at first I found it was a little difficult. It took me a while to find, people that I felt were the same as me or had the same interests and values as I did. The people at work were cool, but I didn't necessarily hang out with them outside of work that much. And yeah, I feel like it took me a little bit to find my footing in the city.
Totally. And that makes sense. Everybody's first impression of Edmonton is going to be it's a giant parking lot. Look at all these commons. South Common, Mayfield Common, what else Common? And that makes sense.
It's definitely a driving city. It's, and it's not necessarily made for walking around and, at the time it wasn't great for cycling. It wasn't necessarily great for being a pedestrian as a commuter. But even in the few years I've been here, they've made leaps and bounds in terms of transportation and accessibility. The bike lanes are awesome. I think they're awesome. I debate my friends at work about that. But it's great to see a city finding itself in a way that sounds super condescending. I don't mean it to be. There's lots of cool things happening. Honestly, the Ice District is amazing. I think once that's done, there's going to be all these great gathering areas downtown, and it would be awesome to see downtown here thriving and really being a destination place to hang out.
Plus, there's so many independent businesses here. I talked to an Uber driver once, and he told me he's lived in 5 different cities in the States. He's lived in 3 different cities in Europe. He grew up in the Philippines, and he's never seen so many like different options for food per like square kilometer anywhere else.
Edmonton's surprisingly multicultural, and sometimes I feel like even more so than Vancouver, which is, you know, twice the population. It doesn't feel as multicultural as Edmonton. You've got like really all colors and religions represented here, and yeah, you're right. It's like there's great options for food, and once you find those local businesses and that scene, I guess, of like young entrepreneurs that are, you know, trying to bring all the good stuff to the city, then you're golden, and then you're really enjoying what Edmonton has to offer.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's a place that you kind of learn to love.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's so easy to have like a first impression. You're like looking it over, and you haven't even seen the river valley, and you drove through like 17th Street, and you're like, yeah, this place has a bunch of oil stacks and a bunch of smoke in the air, kind of weird. Don't like it. But then when you actually see the heart of the city and how much has changed, it's nice.
And I think as far as big cities go, Edmonton has a lot of opportunity. I got into really cool stuff like spin just by living here. I feel like if I had stayed in a Vancouver or a Toronto or a Montreal, I don't know that I would have gotten into it, you know, just because there's more people vying for those same opportunities. I feel like here it was maybe at the time anyway seen as kind of like this fringe thing, not super mainstream yet. So yeah, I felt like I was really fortunate to get into that. I also had a DJ gig for a while, which I always wanted to do. I don't know that I would have been able to do that either in a city with like tons more cool people vying for the same jobs, you know?
That's making sense. It's making sense. I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Good.
You say had a DJ gig. Did you stop your DJ gig?
Yes, they sent us all home, and actually there have been a lot of changes at that bar I used to work at, but it was a perfect gig. I'm an avid record collector, as we sit in front of my ridiculous record collection, and I would just go there with a couple crates of records and play in the background. It was awesome. People would come and chat. I made some great friends that way just by playing music at this bar, and people would come up and like, oh yeah, I heard of this band. Have you heard of these guys? Like, music is one of my big passions, and it was awesome to be able to share that and connect with people over that in that setting. But yeah, it's too bad, but I mean, it made sense. It's not like I was bringing people in. It's not like, hey guys, have you heard Eric's playing tonight? Oh, we should go. Like,
Eric, spin.
Echo. I was not a draw necessarily for the people that ate there, drank there. I was just kind of in the background. So I don't know. I'll dust off those turntables.
You're better than a Spotify playlist of my heart, Eric.
Thank you, Chris.
Do you have plans to like find a new space to do your thing, or are you good with just enjoying music as it is?
Well, I still buy too many records. It's slowed down. I feel like I was at the point where I was buying stuff just so I could play some different stuff at the bar, which makes sense if you're a DJ.
Yeah.
But no, I think I will. I've been toying with the idea of looking for new venues to spin records in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because if a guy like me knows that, I seem to make a lot of friends. So if I know that Eric wants to spin vinyl somewhere, I'll make it happen.
I mean, ideally it wouldn't be from 8 to 2 in the morning like it used to be, because then I had my spin class at 9:30 the next morning.
I hear you. That is maybe not ideal for anybody.
Maybe a brunch thing, if you hear anything.
I tend to organize these brunch things, so
I've heard of these, yes.
Yeah. With your entrance into the fitness industry, I don't think you really saw it coming. Like, how did that sneak up on you? You're a guy who's like into film. You're into like kind of hipster things. You're full on hipster. How'd you get into fitness?
I'm like hipster light. My girlfriend at the time, we're not together anymore, but she found this wine and ride at this place called True Ride, and it was, I think, the only spin studio in the city at the time. And hey, Eric, we should check this out. And I'm like, alcohol and working out, sure. That's one way to get me to sweat.
That's how they got you.
So I showed up and I had a great time. I'd never done anything like that. That's not true. I guess I had done like group exercise stuff at the YMCA. I used to do the spin classes at the Y in Vancouver. Broad Street. But This was different. This was like, it was dark, the music was loud, the instructors were like hype and like passionate. There were candles, lighting the room. It's a big room with like this stadium kind of setting, so like there were multiple levels. It was cool, and it's funny because like I kept going, and my ex-girlfriend was like, "No, you can go," and I became like the avid rider, and yeah, I don't know if they took notice or what, but the founder, Dana Rajat, one day after class was like, "Hey, would you be interested in teaching?" Because I was always like front row, and I have that beast mode face when I'm going really hard, like I'm gritting my teeth, and I'm like, yeah. And I guess they liked that. I mean, at the time, I don't think there were a lot of men teaching indoor cycling, so yeah, the stars aligned, and they onboarded me and trained me.
That's awesome. What would you, if you could paraphrase your journey from that point on, and you use 5 words, what 5 words would they be? Your takeaways from being involved in spin, the people you've met,
My
the experiences
takeaways.
you've had. 5 words.
5 words. I think community, inspiration, musicality, energizing or energetic,
Yeah?
and then electricity. I feel like I guess I was telling you this a little earlier. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit of an imposter in the fitness industry because I don't necessarily see myself as like a fitness guy. Does that make sense? Like, I don't love the gym, to be honest. I got into spin and started doing spin at the YMCA because I like that setting. I like to show up somewhere. The hard part was showing up, and we say that in class all the time, and it's true. Getting off your ass and like going somewhere, knowing that you're going to, sweat and it's going to be hard, but you're probably going to have fun and it's going to be, easy. You don't have to think about it too much because somebody's telling you what to do. I always liked that about spin, and now to be on the other side of that is kind of cool, but at the same time, I don't feel like I don't know. I mean, not to downplay what we do. I think what we do is great and it's important for a lot of people, but I'm not trying to like, blow minds and like, change people's lives per se. I'm hoping I can have an influence and contribute a little bit to their fitness journey and what they're going through, but it's not, I feel like I don't necessarily teach my class the way, say, like a Soul Cycle would, with like all these like pearls of wisdom and like trying to like, I don't know.
Here I'm gonna like drop a bomb on you and just blow your mind and have you take this from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So in Edmonton, there's probably thousands trainers / group fitness instructor, guaranteed, without exaggeration, because there's a lot of gyms.
Yeah.
Each gym has a lot of trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Now each trainer has a different personality. So a person looking to get into fitness, they're only going to operate on the same wavelength as a person that they can relate to.
Yeah.
And so there are people out there that relate to you. You have a cult following. You know it.
I have a following. I think, and maybe that's just it. Maybe it's because I'm just myself and I'm kind of a goofy guy and I don't take myself super seriously. I take indoor cycling very seriously though.
Yeah.
Like I put a lot of work in my playlists. I think a lot about spin and music that I want to use and how I'm going to energize people and make them want to kick their own butts. But at the same time, I guess it doesn't, I don't overthink it either. I don't know.
It's so important to be your damn self.
Yeah.
Like, that was my favorite thing about teaching at True Ride. At the end of the class, I'd be like, the most important thing is be true to yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's something that I say to people outside of that. That's not like a brand thing. That is like Chris says that to everybody.
It's true.
And the thing that I appreciate so much as someone who has taken fitness on as their career is there are people who could have easily had high blood pressure. They could have problems with health. Mm-hmm. They're inclined to get into fitness. They're inclined to get those endorphins. They're improving their mental health. That's because of you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I do it too, right? Like, it is an emotional release. It's a mental reset. It's all those things. It's also a way that I can drink beer guilt-free on evenings and weekends. It's about balance, Chris.
It is. It's okay. It's okay.
But I think it's, if for me, if I've kept it real and people have responded to that, that's awesome. And I love my riders. I love the people that come to ride with me. It's a great feeling to be able to, I guess, join someone's fitness journey or have them be part of your own fitness journey, because I'm going through a fitness journey. We all are. And then there's the body image thing. I mean, I've always been a chubby kid. I've always been chubby. Growing up in New Brunswick, you don't do a lot of walking or cycling. There's a lot of driving. I didn't necessarily eat that great. When I moved to Vancouver, just by walking around SkyTrain to the bus stops to work, I lost 30 to 40 pounds just by not even trying. Literally by just adding commuting to my lifestyle. And now being able to do this for a side job and have that be built into my life, I don't even need to think about it, is amazing. It's great that I don't know, I hope that people see me this kind of bigger dude, I guess, up on the bike, putting on a show and getting people excited about working out. I hope that that's resonated with people and that's inspired them, even though they don't look like they belong on a fitness magazine cover, to try indoor cycling and to try fitness and try and be part of that community.
It's great. It's exciting because you have a strong following. You have people that are there for Eric, and those are people that sometimes I think about, and I'm like, would they be in fitness if not for Eric's impact?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if I'm that influential.
I think you are. I think
thank you.
Pat yourself on the back.
That's nice of you to say.
You've done good work. You've created a big impact.
Thanks, man.
You bet. What would you say is the toughest obstacle you face? And what tools have you used to overcome it?
Working in a creative space, you put a lot of yourself into your work a lot of the time. If you say you're writing something for, even if it's for, say I'm writing something, a campaign for global, the big fall launch is happening and we need this, really hooky kind of series of ads that advertise our station, advertise the personalities, and I come up with this idea that I love and I put my heart and soul into it, and I present this to my boss and they just don't like it. It sucks. It sucks to be told that, no, it's not what I want. It's not what we want as a company, or, it could be a different client. So working in a creative space, you learn pretty quick that while you need to put yourself into your work, you need to use your expertise and use the things that you love in your normal life and weave those into your work, because that's what makes it, authentic. It's what makes it breathe. People aren't always going to resonate with what you get excited about. So you have to learn to, not get married to anything you do. I hear a lot of filmmakers that start out, that's what they struggle with. It's when they shop their scripts around. People either don't respond the way they expected them to the writing or to the story, and they struggle with that, and it's you just don't get it. But the thing with an audience is that you need to see things from their perspective as well. It's sometimes when you're too close to something, you can't see how other people would not see it the way you see it, if you know what I mean. So you have to be open to that feedback, and you have to be willing to go back to the drawing board and try again. And maybe the second time you won't feel like you want to put as much of yourself into it, because then you're a little hurt and then you're in self-preservation mode a little bit. But that was one of the toughest things, I think, working in production, working in that creative space. What you end up learning, though, is that the people that, disagree with you or challenge you or provide feedback, they're not there to stifle you and shut you down. Even though some people are not as good at, constructive criticism as others. They have interests that they need to protect. They are looking out for their company. They're looking out for how their audiences are gonna perceive them. So you need to learn how to see things from their perspective and That's when, like, when you're doing like a feedback process, even if they give you feedback, hey, how about you try this? How about you make this yellow? And then maybe this is not a woman, it's a man, and I don't know, they make changes. And you have to be able to kind of go, okay, yeah, let's try that. And one of the two things will happen. Either it'll be ridiculous and it won't work, and then you can show them that and they'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. Or who knows, it might be better. And I've been lucky to have like a really good boss here at Global who has great instincts. I find she, when she has great gut feelings, sometimes when something's not working, it's hard for her to articulate why and how, but we've got like a relationship going where I can kind of, when she's mentioned something or flagged something, I'm kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. And it's almost like we've learned to like speak our own secret language. Exactly. So it's cool to be on the same wavelength with somebody like that. And yeah, but if I wasn't open to that feedback, and if I was just like, no, you're wrong, and this is good the way it is, and you just don't get it, we would have never had this working relationship. And to brag a little bit, I mean, that's led to some award-winning campaigns that we've done that have been recognized at the international level, and that's fantastic. Like, I can't take all the credit for it by any means. Like, it was definitely a collaboration, and that's it's a beautiful thing.
I've seen those awards. You shared them on the gram. I watched them.
Yeah.
Tell the people.
Trophies.
What are your accolades that you've collected in your career?
When I worked at TELUS, I won a couple corporate film awards at this festival in Cannes, France. And they actually flew me out once to go pick one up. That was awesome. That's probably one of the best work trips of my life.
No kidding.
And then, at Global, I've won a couple. At Global, I've won a couple Promax DBA awards, basically recognizing achievements in local advertising.
You always down it a bit. I remember I was watching the story once, and it was like this cool little snippet of revealing the trophy, and I was like, Eric won that trophy. Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah, I don't know why people do that. People like myself, like I like to think that I'm humble. I don't talk a lot about my achievements, and I don't know if that's something to do with like growing up in the mirror times where you don't. I don't know. You don't
need to overthink it. Just you being you.
That's okay. You don't brag too much. Yeah.
So something that was really cool about what you're talking about with your with the production struggles and with the constructive criticism and stuff, and it's something that we can transfer on to so many other things.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just gonna take it down the route of the trainer journey.
Yeah.
So as a trainer, you put yourself out there, you put yourself out there, and you're trying to get some exposure, you're trying to get some clients, trying to say, hey, I have a brand, and hopefully I can get some clients so I can make this sustainable so I can survive. And for anybody listening, you can pretty much apply this to any industry, really. In order to succeed twice, you're going to need to try at least 8 or 10 times. And there's going to be so many times when somebody says something and it stings and you're like, I don't like the sound of that because that makes me feel bad about myself. And you need to frame it. You're not feeling bad about yourself. You're hearing what they have to say and you're using that as tools to build yourself into something better than what you were before. And I think that's just a great takeaway. And I just wanted to make sure that people could apply that to anything that they're doing. And it's not that I have nothing but trainers listening to this. I'm pretty sure I have a completely mixed bag. Probably have 3 accountants listening to this today. But there's so many, you can't deny yourself some of the victories that are going to come out of every attempt that you put in. It's sort of a ratio. I would say for every 8 times you try, you probably win once or twice.
I think if you surround yourself with people that respect you and are looking out for you, that care about you, and they have feedback, you owe it to yourself to listen, and you owe it to yourself to take their perspective, see if you can apply it to whatever it is that you're showing them, and consider it seriously, because those people are just out to help you. And even though feedback stings sometimes, and like you say, it makes you grow, it makes you better, and then you will inevitably learn things from other people's experiences if you haven't had them yourself, right?
And something I've often reflected on is like somebody is not going to give me their constructive criticism if they don't care. Like everybody is kind of about what's going on in their world.
Yeah.
And they want to grow themselves and they want to grow the things that they have an invested interest in. So if they're giving you constructive criticism, they have an invested interest in you. They really do want to see you grow. So anytime like somebody's like, Chris, I wouldn't do that, and it sucks. You hear it the first time, it's like, I put my heart into that, like, or I put all this money into that, or like that was something I was banking on. And it's like this person speaking up on it, like they have a reason that they're talking about it, and they do want to see me grow. So there's something in what they have said that I can take away from it, and it's going to help me in the future. And there's been a lot of situations like for myself, like I worked at L2, they shut her down. I had to set something new up. I've had some advice, some of it stung, and I've learned to take a little piece of it out of each one. I think it's so important that people get like this little snippet, something for their toolbox, so they can be like, I'm gonna take that, and that's how I'm gonna get over my obstacle. But I kind of stole the show there a little bit. Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, and you raise a good point. Like, even what can seem like a dead end or a failure, you're learning from it. I know that's kind of cliche to say, but it's true. Like, what you did at L2 is going to serve you in your next gig. And what I did at, the projects that I had that might have never seen the light of day, because that happens every once in a while, you're learning and you're using those and applying it in your future endeavors.
Completely. So, growing up on the East Coast, and you picked up and we moved all the way to the West. Is all your family still in the East?
I have my parents, empty nesters now. Good for them. They still live in the house I grew up in a little town called Nigwek, New Brunswick, which I'm told in the indigenous language there means infertile soil. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Stuff don't grow here in Nigwek.
A lot of dirt.
Yeah. Useless dirt.
Just dirt in them here parts.
So I left the useless dirt place, and so they're still there. And stuff does grow there. I think they had it wrong. And I have a brother who lives in Vernon, and he has a wife and 2 kids.
So, being that they're more than a short drive away, how do you build time to like nurture your family relationships into your week? Like, what's something you prioritize to keep things consistent and connected?
I'm a terrible son, actually. I do not make enough time for my family, unfortunately. I talk to my mom maybe like once a month these days, which is awful. But I mean, we're all busy. There's a time difference. Excuses. It's hard. It's hard to make time when you're working a full-time job and you have like a part-time job that takes up a lot of your time, and then you're trying to fit friends in there, relationships, etc. Making time is not easy. And then with my brother, I'm not that close, I guess, with him. Like I love his kids and I try to see them like maybe twice a year. But my brother and I aren't like buds or anything. I'm the media and he's in the police force. We're kind of like sworn enemies in some ways. I can't say that I make enough time for them, unfortunately.
As someone who's known you fairly well, I would say, for the last year, as true family grew close, and having that buzzword, true fam. What do you think about the people that you get to choose as your family?
Oh, interesting. I love my true family. I've made a very close best friend from the crew, and everybody else I consider best friends as well. We're like a unit. We look out for each other. We help each other out when someone's having a down day, when somebody's apartment burns down, when somebody gets dumped or has a crappy relationship or gets laid off. These are all things that have happened and that we've talked about and helped each other out with. And we're really there for each other, and we're really lucky that we were assembled and with that, we were brought together. Yeah, I guess it's important for us to find just really genuine, authentic people that just care about other people and that care about, making a difference and helping people in any way they can.
Some people might not find like that role, that family role in like what would be their blood relatives. But if you have like a family role being filled by somebody who honestly you reflect and you're like, yeah, I guess they really are like my family.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, and I'd say you do make time for them. Every week. Like every week, you know it. Because you're going to see at least one of them when you teach in your class.
Yeah.
You're going to have that interaction.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I hang out with a lot of our people like on a weekly basis, or we text, or we have a group chat going constantly, like a lot of families do. We have our own True Fam chat going. It's interesting. I guess I never thought of it that way, like choosing your own family, but it's true. I guess you can't choose your biological family, but there is a closeness with people that share the same values and outlook that you do.
It's so important, I think, to keep that as like a pillar for any situation. There's going to be times when you're really pushing yourself to the limit, and like that's why the group fitness, the boutique fitness, all that kind of environment where they're doing something that thrives on the idea that they have created a culture where everybody gathers. Somebody has somebody to keep each other accountable. You have a bad day, there's somebody that's actually going to give a shit. Like, so much of that is supported by the idea of like community, culture, family, choose your family, all those things. And the whole idea of like just having a group chat where it's like, hey, like somebody had something happen that's maybe not pressing, but there's at least one other person in the group that maybe has had the same thing happen, or they can relate.
Yeah.
Or they can just be an ear to hear. And there's been so many times when I have benefited from like the group chat that you're in, from other group chats that I've formed since. And it's neat. It's neat because like sometimes we talk about family and it's like, well, I mean, but like then you have to consider like what else is family to you? Because there's a lot of people in the city that they'll think family. Well, like even the people who are closest to their family, like they're sharing a bed with their twin sister and like their stepbrother is just down the hall and everybody gets along harmoniously. They all eat from the same cereal bowl. Everybody's happy, happy, happy. But they still also have their chosen family.
Yeah.
And that's something to factor in. And I think it's really cool to see how, I, for one, have leached on You'll Never Get Rid of Me as part of the True Family.
We're happy to have you, Chris.
There's a lot of people in this town that are like, we just can't shake him. We're part of his circle of love, and he just won't let us out.
The famous Chris Little's Circle of Love.
We're going to get t-shirts made, I swear. And there's a lot of people in this town that'll be wearing them.
Should have a secret handshake.
Oh, for sure. It'll be simple because I get forgetful. I mean, t-shirt first and foremost, and have one.
Maybe the instructions to the handshake could be on the t-shirt.
Like, I'm just going to do a regular handshake and probably give you a hug afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's so important, and I think like a person, because I find that a lot of people that find themselves feeling anxious or nervous or afraid can relate to a lot of the stuff that I put out there, because I'm really good at just sharing everything, really good at being vulnerable. And when I'm weak, I tell the whole world. When I fail, tell everybody. And so for a person, if they're listening to the podcast and they're thinking like, how do you do it? Well, just pick your people that are pillars. Form a group chat if you haven't already. And that's your people that keep you going forward. And I think that's probably our biggest takeaway of like any obstacle that you're facing going forward. Do you think that the True Fam is going to help you through?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Like being vulnerable is important. And I'm lucky in a way. I've always been sort of able to do that. And I've kind of always been pretty aware of my emotions and found people that I could talk about that with. I don't know that that's the case for every guy out there. Like, I feel for men specifically, it is hard. Some people find it hard to be vulnerable. And yeah, I think when you, not that you need to wear your heart on your sleeve or anything, but you need to talk about stuff when things aren't great in your head and your heart. Like, it's important that you get that stuff out, and you find somebody who's willing at least to listen and then provide some kind of feedback. And yeah, I think, and you're lucky too that you're able to do that. Not everybody can, and it's easier to say, oh, we should all just be more vulnerable, but it's hard to get there in a lot of ways. So you're right, finding the right people helps. When you find people that you can be comfortable with, that you can let your guard down and just kind of speak from the gut, I think, your life is enriched from that for sure.
Everybody has their 5-year plan. Everybody has something that is in the back of their mind. Ha! I got you. Start thinking. I'm going to ramble while you come up with your 5-year plan, Eric. Everybody has something in the back of their mind that they're thinking, like, okay, like, my best life. I'm Eric Morrison. I'm living my best life. This is what it looks like 5 years down the road. Where do I live? What am I doing? Your best life, man. Like, what is your career like? What are you aiming for? What are your stars? What are you shooting for?
Oh, best life. I'm working on a TV show that I write and direct or something. Or I'm like, when a show ends and then like executive produced by, well, that's my name that's there. Actually, that means I would just be financing that thing. No, I want to be more involved than that. I want to be at the front of the show, not the back of the show.
There you go.
Anyway, so I'd like to work in television, have a film produced, and make a movie.
Where do you live?
I live somewhere.
Beach? Nice weather?
By the water would be nice. I am definitely a coastal human.
No snow? Probably no snow.
I'm okay with snow. I grew up with a lot of snow.
Okay.
The dumps in the Maritimes are crazy.
West Coast, East Coast?
Probably West Coast, though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Canada, U.S.?
I love Canada. Actually, my mission, I used to always say this, my mission is to make a Canadian movie. Like a movie about Canada. It doesn't need to be about Canada, but set in Canada anyway. Some sort of semi-Canadian story that people watch and go, that's so Canadian, but not in a derogatory way. Because I feel like a lot of our content, people would be like, yeah, it's good, but it's like, it's very Canadian. Meaning it was like, I don't know, it looked cheap. The acting was like, okay. I feel like people say that as like a put down, and I kind of want to change that term. I change the baggage that comes with that term and make it like a good thing. Yeah.
So like changing it from like, that is so Canadian to, damn, that's Canadian.
Maybe. I feel like some shows have done it. They've done it, but I feel like
they have for sure ramped it up over the last few years. Like, I'm pretty proud of some of the production value that's coming out of the country right now.
We have creative people, and there's great shows out there like Trailer Park Boys, which I actually love. If you haven't watched Trailer Park Boys,
I have.
It's easy. I find it's one of those shows I never wanted to watch because I was sure it was terrible, but then when you start watching it, it's really clever. It's really well written. It's a low budget show, so they do the most with what they have, the resources they have, and they have to be really ingenious with how they move the plot along and stuff. It's great, and it's still on now. Netflix picked it up. So yeah, there's stuff out there, but even those stories, they're very I don't know, drenched in Canadiana. And I'm not talking about necessarily making something with like moose in it and like sex in a canoe and toques and all that stuff. Like something set in Canada or Canadian stories that are, can be universally enjoyed. But that it would be something that, we could be proud of. I could be proud of.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
So that looks like and how I get there, I'm still figuring that out. I've written a feature film script. I actually have. And it's not easy to do because it's something you have to do in your own time. With no reward at the end of it, really. And I find that's one of the hardest things. I admire like the filmmakers that have just gone for it and just gone out on a limb and went for it. It's not easy to do. you don't have a reward guaranteed at the end, and you're putting like a ton of work into something. Writing a 100-page script, not as easy as it sounds. It takes a lot of discipline, and like your ideas need to be flowing, and you need to map it out. You can't just sit there and write a script. Like you need to like think about it and write your scenes on like little cards that you move around, and you're like, how's this all gonna work? And it's daunting, but when you get it done, you're like, wow, I actually have like a thing. I'm holding a thing that represents like what I love and what I'm passionate about, and it's your work. Like it's like the fruit of your labor, quite literally. Not I guess not that literally. You can't eat it, but so yeah, somewhere in there, I guess sort of a step in the right direction.
What's the genre of your script?
The script I wrote is kind of like an action comedy, a bit in the style of like an Edgar Wright movie. If you're into Edgar Wright, he did like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. What else did he do? Baby Driver, most recently. Like kind of that kinetic. There's always something happening, and blink and you miss it. There's a lot of jokes in there, but that has like some action components to it.
And where would it need to be filmed at? Where would be your ideal setting?
Well, it's actually set on the East Coast. There is a fishing boat chase, which involves somebody hurling lobster at bad guys as projectiles to fend them off. So that's, I guess, what I mean by like, yeah, it's very Canadian. There's Canadian parts to it, but it's an action comedy at the end of the day. I feel like a good example of that is like Bon Cop, Bad Cop, where it's like it happens to be an Ontario and Quebec officers on this case, but it's like it's a movie that could be easily enjoyed by anybody else. There's like, yeah, sure, there's inside jokes and you're rewarded, I guess, if you get them, but it's a great movie kind of overall.
Totally, I agree. Have you ever heard of Shane Fennessy? He's somebody who produces films, and generally he just makes sure that the ship is on course, make sure everything is going into place.
Yeah.
I think you should meet him.
Does he have money?
It's not all about the money. Sometimes.
But yeah, a big barrier to stuff like filmmaking is that, yeah, you need to raise capital, you need to finance your movie because you need to pay your crew and you need to pay for actors and stuff like that. So, yeah, but Netflix has promised to put like a lot of money into Canadian content and stuff. So there are things happening. There are venues there that can be explored.
So when we release this episode, I'm going to tag Shane. I'm going to tell him to listen. And I might be able to make a connection that brings you to like an inch closer. An inch closer to your goal. Because sometimes it's just about having a little conversation with somebody that does something that happened. And sometimes it's about having something that makes a light bulb turn on. Mm-hmm. But that's neither here nor there. That's for after the episode. My next question for you, and it's a pressing one. It's something that's going to take a lot of thinking. What's your favorite place to eat in Edmonton?
Oh my God, you're saving the hard questions for the end, Chris. Goodness,
it's tough.
Oh man, favorite place to eat? Edmonton has some good restaurants. Daravaro was one of my favorites, and it closed recently. You jerks! How could you?
What was it all about? What kind of food did they have?
You know what? It was like Chris, who owns Listen Records, described this best. He said, as opposed to being like a bar that has food, it was like a restaurant that also had a bar. Yeah. So it was like, it was positioned like a pub, but it was like, the food was amazing. Like it was like a pub with like gourmet pub food, I guess. So you'd go for brunch and like everything was just really tasty. The ingredients were good. Yeah, and their beer selection was like, is all right, but it wasn't, you don't go for the beer. You don't go to this pub for the beer. You go for the food, which is kind of weird. Anyways, it was amazing. Trying to think what else I really like. I like a lot of the cafes we have here. Little Brick is like a great little joint I love to bike to out in Riverdale.
Such a hipster life you live.
Come on.
Like if anybody saw your beer, they'd be like, yeah, hipster.
What?
That's okay.
Yeah, I guess those are a couple places that I really like. Sugar Bowl is always solid. Anywhere that has a good beer selection and some good food, I'm there. Prairie Noodle House, delicious, good beer. Yeah, the beer factor is important. It's an important one.
Very, very important. So I'm loading up the question bazooka. This one's going to be a tough one to answer.
Oh, God.
What is your favorite concert and why?
Favorite concert I've ever been to? I go to a lot of concerts.
Exactly.
I'm a big music fan, a lot of genres. I've seen The National, this kind of American old hipster band, I guess, a bunch of times. They're always great.
What's one, like, just for a memory that you made from it? Sometimes it's not even the music,
stands
it's
out.
the memory.
I remember at the Commodore Ballroom in Vancouver seeing Block Party, which are this UK kind of garage. They called it math rock, the genre at the time. A lot of like, tight guitar chord progression. I guess why they called it math rock. And I remember Banquet. They played their big song Banquet, and I love that song. I still love that song. I played in spin class, and this song is like 18 years old or something. I think it came out in 2000. Don't quote me on that. I remember being at the Commodore Ballroom and they start playing this song and the crowd of 1,000+ people just were jumping in unison, and they have one of those like ballroom floors that has a bit of bounce to it, and it was like if you weren't jumping, you were still jumping because the floor was giving out underneath you and like causing you to kind of go up and down. I think just the energy in the room, the fact that all these different people from different backgrounds were there just to like party to this song was amazing. There's something about concerts and when people are really into it. It's just a great feeling of like togetherness and celebration, and that's probably why I go to that many concerts.
That makes sense. It's like that vibe.
Yeah.
Going and feel, it's like endorphins and exercise, same thing, right?
Most recently, I saw Future Islands at Union Hall, and they were amazing. The lead singer his name's Sam Herring, and he is this super charismatic but kind of weird performer. He kind of looks like a high school drama teacher or something, and he wears like polo shirts, but they're tucked into his pants. Like he doesn't have like the best style, I guess, necessarily. But man,
but you remembered him. You remembered all those things.
He gets up there and he performs, and he's doing these crazy things, and he has this like amazing growl in his voice. And I went there with some friends that didn't know much about them, and they all walked away like, "What the hell just happened? Like, what was that? That was amazing!" Like, so yeah. That's Future Islands. If you can catch them, absolutely check them out. They're wild.
That's awesome. I didn't even know like Union Hall was still a thing. Like, are they still operating full on?
For sure. I see shows at the Union Hall quite often. I saw Big Boy there this year, which is really good. I saw the Japan Droids. I'm there once every couple months or so. Yeah.
You're one of their regulars.
Bonobo was there. They were good.
Here for another one. It's me.
Another one.
Eric Spins.
Yeah.
So, here's the finisher. This is how we close it off. If you were to give our listeners one piece of advice on authentically living life to the fullest, what would it be?
Just be yourself, man. Love yourself for who you are. Play to your strengths. It's funny, every once in a while, I kind of get self-conscious about my spin classes, and I'll ask the true fam, like, hey, I feel like I need to be a little bit more like deep and inspirational in what I say, and they're like, why? That's not what people like your class for. That's not that I'm not deep, because people, my close friends will attest to the fact that I, love to have, very deep emotional conversations. But that's not necessarily something that comes to me naturally when I'm up there on the bike leading a class, and I don't need to do that. And my true fan is there to remind me about that. So play to your strengths. If you're a goofball that likes music that energizes people, and you have like a personality that gets people going when they're working in a dark room on bikes that go nowhere, own it. That can apply to anybody, anywhere. I feel like everybody has strengths, and strengths that they can capitalize on and use to their advantage. And if they're different, so what? People will love you for that. Normal is boring, I always think. And so if you're different, awesome, even better. Be different.
Own it.
Yeah, own it.
I love it. Thanks for being my guest. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.